Hello, welcome to Paint Talk, the weekly show where I sit, have a cup of coffee, and just kind of talk about painting. Today I'm going to talk about the three best habits that I feel I've developed as a painter that have helped me get better at painting. If you're new to the channel, my name is Chris Fornatero, and I'm here to help simplify oil painting so that you can get better faster. All right, habit number one is not being a perfectionist. This has helped me a lot. The main thing is that with painting, most of the learning when you're painting is going to happen in the beginning stages of a painting. That's where a painting, I feel like, is, made or lost. I always try and tell, my students this, especially like in my tutorials. If you watch my tutorials, I definitely do a lot more explaining, a lot more teaching, at the beginning sections of the painting, because that's where there's a lot more to learn and understand and get right. Once you get to a certain stage of a painting, it's really just fine tuning and building off the foundation that you've already made in the beginning stages of the painting. It's just a lot of really focusing on your reference and dialing things in that are already there. Dialing your values, your colors, your drawing, just really making these fine little adjustments. So if you're a person that just keeps working and just keeps finding little things to adjust, and the painting's been sitting there for a week and you want to pick it back up and just keep adjusting, you want to make it perfect, you're wasting a lot of time that you could be spending starting a new painting and going through that whole process again and learning from it again. The more times you go through the process of painting a painting from beginning to end, the faster you're going to get better. When it comes to learning to paint, I find volume is more important than quality. I mean, you don't want to be making bad quality stuff, but you're in the learning stages. And when I'm talking about this, I'm mainly talking about, learning and practicing. Like if you get a commission or you have like an idea for, a big painting that you want to do, and you've done a bunch of studies and, you figured a lot of stuff out. Now you're going to paint it on a big giant 6-foot canvas. That's a different story. I'm just talking about like your day-to-day practice. You want to be getting as many reps as possible. And if you can't let a painting go and you just keep on having to pick away at it and make it perfect, you're wasting valuable rep time. This also goes for how you set yourself up to paint. Like I try to make painting as easy to start as possible. Like I set up my space and my materials, so it's very easy for me just to jump in and start painting. I don't buy extremely expensive materials. That way financially, like it's no biggie to, jump in, start painting. Doesn't turn out, it's fine. I don't care. I see a lot of students that will only paint on, expensive stretch canvas and really expensive paint, so they get kind of precious about everything, and everything they do has to turn out great, and they can't let a painting go that's not working because it's on this nice stretch canvas and they're using these nice materials. They don't want to waste paint, so they don't put out enough paint on their palette, and therefore they don't use enough paint when they're painting. I've always just tried to make painting not that big of a deal. I don't need any pressure when I'm painting. I also don't put any expectations on a painting when I start it. If it turns out, great. If it doesn't, all right, moving on to the next one. Not trying to create a masterpiece every single time I put, a brush to canvas. All right, the second habit that's helped me a lot is that I am always looking to be humbled. This could be going online and following painters that are much further along in their abilities than I am. Painting is one of these things that you can do pretty much forever. So there are a lot of people out there that have been painting longer than I've been alive. I want to surround myself with as many of them as possible. I want to surround myself in groups of artists where I am the weakest painter. When you interact with artists that are further along than you, they're going to help pull you further faster. I was actually very lucky to be invited to go paint with a bunch of plein air painters down here that are pros. They're great. I'm definitely the weakest landscape painter in the bunch. And every single time I go out and paint with them, my desire to want to get better is, ignited again. And I'm like, wow, like I see what is possible, and I see how much further I have to go, and just being around them and seeing their work makes me want to get better. I always feel that you're never too good to not learn from somebody. There's always more to learn. There's always someone out there that has knowledge that you don't, that you can learn from. And the moment that you think, oh, like I made it, I'm good, like I can kind of let off the gas a little bit. Everybody loves my stuff. I don't really need to keep pushing it or, seek out more learning. It's just the moment that you stop seeking new knowledge and more knowledge about this, because it's endless. With painting, the amount you can learn is endless. And the moment you stop trying to seek out that knowledge is the time that your work becomes stale, that you stop progressing, that you'll probably stop enjoying it as much. So, try to get yourself in a group of artists that are better than you. Don't just be showing your artwork to your friends and family that are always saying, oh, that's great, oh, that's great, oh, that's great. Find a drawing group or, an online group. Like my Patreon students post in the private Facebook page, and, some are better than others. And I'm sure that inspires those that aren't as further along. You can follow certain people on social media that, are really good, and a lot of them have courses and workshops, or you can, message them if you have a question about something. Just always be seeking to interact with people that are further along than you are. All right, and the last habit I want to talk about is that I am not very picky with my subject matter. I always say don't be worried about what you're painting as much of how you're painting. I'm always bouncing around from portraits to landscapes to still lifes, and I feel that one helps me from getting bored, and also I feel like you kind of exercise different painting muscles when you're doing different subjects. Like when you're painting portraits, it's a different experience, and you're kind of utilizing different aspects of painting than you are with landscapes. And every single time I paint landscapes for a while and then I come back to portraits, my portraits improve. Same, going the other way. This also is probably due to time away from a subject. I think it's very important to have time off. If you're just going portraits after portraits after portraits, things can get stale, and, you can hit walls and plateaus. And it's really good just to not look at portraits for a while, kind of get away from it. That way you can come back with a fresh pair of eyes. And the great thing about painting other stuff is that you can get away from a subject without not painting, because you always want to be painting. So I'll walk away from portraits for a while. I don't want to look at portraits, kind of want to come back with a fresh look, and I'll go paint landscapes. So I'm still painting, I'm still getting better while having time off from this subject that I've kind of been oversaturated with. Now, I feel like there's a lot of people out there that say, oh, you have to have a deep connection to whatever you're painting. That's how you're going to make a really good painting. And I don't think that's true. You can. That's great if you can. Like, in terms of just practicing and getting better, you need to paint. Like, that's the main thing, is you need to paint as much as possible and to get better, because when the time comes when you do want to do a painting that has a lot of significance, and maybe you spend a lot of time planning and thinking about it, you want to have the skill set to be able to express what you want about that painting. You can have all the ideas and feelings and stuff that you want about a subject that you want to paint, but if you don't have the tangible skills to execute that vision and to get that message across, you're not going to be able to. So you have to have the tangible skills to communicate to the viewer what you want. And also, I would argue that no matter what it is, a still life, a landscape, or a portrait, especially if you're working from life, just the act of you sitting down and painting that subject is going to give you a connection to it. Because if you think about it, you're just standing there looking at something for hours. And what other aspect of your life do you do that? What other aspect do you take the time just to stop and just look at one thing for hours and really figure out what's going on with it? It's pretty cool when you think about it, because with painting, you're studying how the world works visually. And a lot of people said that, painting is like the study of light. And it's so cool because there's light, there's value, there's form. Like, you're trying to understand how something exists in the visual world. You're really understanding its presence here in the world visually. And honestly, that's a lot. So I can make the argument that I could have absolutely no connection or care at all about what I'm painting, and the actual act of me painting it is what's going to make me discover interest in it and understand it more. I always felt that, like, painting something is a process of which you kind of like understand why you're interested in something. Because a lot of times, you know, like you'll come across a subject matter and you're like, oh, like I want to paint that, and you don't know exactly why, and you're interested in it. And I find that a lot of what makes a good painter is being able to identify what about that scene is making you interested in it, and being able to communicate that to simplify what you see and get rid of the things that don't matter, put on the canvas what is needed to translate that interest. All right, so those are my three best habits. If you have other habits that you feel are good, comment with those habits down below, share them with us. If you're looking for full painting video tutorials, I got that on my Patreon page, which is listed in the description below. Also down there is a link to my Foundations of Oil Painting course. If you want to see what I'm painting on a daily basis, you can follow me on Instagram at Forza43. I'm Chris Fornatero, here telling you to go get painting.